Hello, chat. I hope you're all sitting comfortably today. My name is Eternal Saturn, aka Perry Alton with the news. I used to be Eternal Hollow. You can just call me Eternal or Perry or even just Saturn. I go by anything. Today is Spooky Saturnday. Haha, cause Saturday. Well, I'm recording this on a Friday actually. But you know, anyway, today is Spooky Saturnday, and I'm going to tell you some spooky stories from my life that I remember by memory. So please forgive me if I ramble or go on tangents a little bit. I am neurodivergent. It will happen. Today's map, this incredible map, is called The Everfall Home by Lily with 2 L's. And it's made for autumn and Halloween lovers alike. I am a big Halloween lover, so you know. This is a Nova Beast I made myself, but all the assets are off Gumroad and such, like the monster outfit and the antlers. The texturing, I did myself, but the Nova Beast obviously is by Kitomaniac. Let's get started, shall we? So the first story I'm going to tell you is probably one of my most recent spooky stories. It happened in 2018. I used to have a boyfriend from Sweden, and I'd see him once a year by going to London. We would go to London for a weekend once a year, usually in the winter time for RTX London. There was only like 2 or 3 of those, unfortunately. But we went to like the first 2. Well, he went to the first 2, I went to the last one that they did. I was meant to go to the other one with him, but I don't think they did a third one. I think there was just 2 of them. There was 2 RTX Londons, I think, that happened. But anyway, he went to one year, and I couldn't afford a ticket to the actual convention, but I still went to London, so I literally had to stay in my hotel room while he was at the convention. It was kind of fucked. But anyway, the second time we went, we were staying in like this nice hotel. I can't remember exactly which hotel it was, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'd love to go back and investigate. I could probably dig around and find it maybe, but that would take a lot of digging that I can't honestly be asked to do. At least not at this time. But I had brought... You're gonna kill me for this one. I had brought an Ouija board with us to London because, see, I wanted to test if Ouija boards actually worked. Stupid, I know. And I didn't want to get like some new out-of-box fake Ouija board. So I went on eBay and I looked for a second-hand Ouija board that looked like it could be legit, you know, like not made out of plastic, not like all cutesy glittery. One that looked like an actual real authentic Ouija board, made out of wood, that looks like it could possibly, you know, be real, if you believe in that kind of thing. Some people do, some people don't. Ill is what it is. Listen to the Uncanny podcast, it's very good for people who are on either side of the ghost debate. But anyway, so I brought this Ouija board with us to London, and I have had experiences with the paranormal before that. We'll get to that. I accidentally moved my camera, but it's okay because it's anchored. We'll get to that. Anyway, I decided that it would be a great idea to, like, use it in the hotel room, but we didn't actually get to use it because he always forgot. We were with a couple of other friends. We never really did the actual Ouija board session, and I was actually kind of, it could be an emotions causing things to happen thing, because emotions and the paranormal, especially in the poltergeist area of the paranormal, they're kind of interlinked at times. Like high emotions can cause a lot of paranormal events and stuff. But I was like in my hotel room while he was in his friend's room, and I was just like, man, I really wanted to do the Ouija board tonight. you know, and, you know, he eventually came back, and I think we talked about it a bit. But the power in our room, at one point that night, when the both of us were there, the power in our room went out completely. We couldn't see, we couldn't shower, we couldn't really do anything. The hotel staff were like, oh, it's only out in this room. We don't know why it's only out in this room. So they pretty much just moved us to another room that they had spare because we couldn't use anything in the room. We weren't getting completely what we'd paid for, type of thing. So that was the best thing they could have done, because they didn't know when the power would come back on, if it would come back on that night or the next day, yada yada yada. So we were moving to this other room, and the Ouija board was something that I moved last. You know, I thought that's gonna be the thing I move into a new room last, because I had already suspected that, you know, the Ouija board could maybe be to do with it, because, like, it was a little weird that it was just our room, supposedly, according to the hotel staff that spoke to us. I don't know this for a fact. It could have been in a room above us too, or a room next to us, I don't know. I mean, we don't even, because not all rooms are occupied at once. Who knows if the power, like, temporarily went out in another room and they just didn't know because no one was staying in it to complain about it, you know what I mean? We moved all our stuff into this new room. As soon as I moved the Ouija board out of our old room into our new room, the power came back on in the old room that we were staying in. We still ended up staying in the new room because it was like, oh, we already moved our stuff here, they already moved us over here, it's whatever. But as soon as I moved that Ouija board out, power came back on. And I think that's strange. However, the power didn't go out in the new room. Could have just been a coincidence. But I still think it was a little bit strange. Like, I don't know. And a follow-up to that Ouija board, there's a second Ouija board incident with that same board. So, since my trip to London, it's been stuck in a bag, like one of those bags you sort of, they have like a string and you pull it and it tightens the bag. Very popular in the UK, at least. I don't know if America has bags like that. It was trapped in one of those, quite tight, you know, and it's been in my room for all these years. I haven't used it because I don't want to, this house seems, well, we'll get to that. But I don't want to make this house have a bad ghost. You know, I don't want to make this house have anything demonic, anything like that could be harmful, potentially. Anything that could make me scared to live here. Because I have lived in a haunted house as a kid. Not pleasant. I do get nightmares about that house frequently. So I would prefer to not go back to that type of life. So I just haven't used it in here. However, my mistake, I moved that bag earlier this year, I believe. I moved it. Well, it kind of got moved. It got like kind of thrown around a bit because I was cleaning my room out, and the kitchen is right below my room, and the bag was like face down on the floor when it got moved, and I could feel that the planchette moved within the bag when I moved it, and I was a bit like, oh shit, I hope that doesn't open the gate, as they say, or cause anything, you know. And then I just didn't think about it. I kind of forgot about it. And then weird stuff started happening in our kitchen. Like, there were noises as if someone was moving. As if someone was, like, moving stuff in there. There was, like... I sometimes felt like I got touched on my arms and legs in there. And I would look thinking it was one of our cats. Well, cat. We only have one cat now. I'd look thinking it was our cat. No. No, she was actually in the other room. You know, my mum started to, I believe she bent down to get something in one of the lower cupboards and she felt something touch her and we sort of felt presences in that kitchen from time to time. So eventually I had to confess to my mum, who's been warning me about the dangers of a Ouija board for years, and is like, you would never use an Ouija board, would you, Perry? And I was always like, no, mother, no, I would never. But you know, I had to tell her about how I had an Ouija board, how I took it to London. It's been in my room for years, and it recently got moved, and the kitchen's right below my room, you know, ceiling to floor. I can see why from my bedroom floor the Ouija board spirit could have trickled down into the kitchen. So because you can't burn Ouija boards, that's apparently bad. Apparently the best way to get rid of them is to either cleanse the board somehow or bury them. So she essentially sent it off to this paranormal group that is meant to like dispose of Ouija boards the correct way and in an ethical way. That happened. I've also had many other dealings with the paranormal. There was a time when I was staying with someone who was at the time a family member or family friend. It's a bit complicated. But I was staying with them, and there was a girl around my age at that time. You know, we were both teenagers, and, you know, we were in the house alone with her younger brother, and we heard someone walking upstairs, plain as day. Like, just walking up the stairs. Not walking up the stairs, but walking around upstairs, plain as day. We heard that shit. And then in that same house, in the room I was staying in, I left like a Monster High doll on its stand, and I was the last to leave the house. We all went to go shopping, and then when I came back, I was the first to enter that room again. She was positioned on her little doll stand as if she was being crucified, like with her arms out like this. So that was scary. That freaked me out. That house in particular had something. Now I know that the sound of walking around upstairs could be the floor resettling, like when people have been, real life humans have been walking around, the floors can creak and crack and then they can like settle later where they make those same noises again. Where they were stepped on, it's like they're resettling. I don't know how to explain it, but that's a explanation for that one. But another weird one is we were going to watch a movie in the video, because they had a VHS still. They had like videos, like actual VHS tapes, not just DVDs and stuff. So, which was like nice to see. But we were gonna put one in, but before we put it in the actual video player, we went to make some food. And then we heard the sound of it playing from the living room, and we went back in to the living room, and the video was in the video player playing. Not a single one of us had actually put it into play yet. So, you know, that's quite terrifying. The second thing is I used to help that same family down on a horse ranch. By the way, this is all in South Wales. If you're curious where this was in South Wales. I'm not going to say the exact town because it's a small town. So it's small enough to the point where I'm not comfortable. I used to help them out. Sometimes we were there at night because, you know, looking after horses, mucking out the stables, you know, it can take a while. Sometimes you'd have to go down there at night and do some stuff, make sure they're all right for the night. And they're all settled and sleepy. And me and the teenage girl were sitting in the car, and a handprint, it was like one of those nights where it was like, you know, the windows are all fogged up with the moisture. A handprint, a clear handprint, began to form on like the front windshield mirror in front of us. And when I came back from South Wales and started attending college again, now he could have been bullshitting me here, but I had a boyfriend at the time that was honestly quite edgy. He told me he was a werewolf, so he was probably bullshitting. But bear in mind we were like teenagers, so it was that edgy teenage phase. But he said he could see like a dark shadow following me. And the thing that makes me wonder if he was actually saying that is because he didn't say anything like that before. He only said it after, and it was for about a week. and then it just stopped. And I did, kind of, it could be because of what you said, but I did kind of feel like I was being watched at times. And again, it could be because, again, we're in the school environment, there's loads of people around. I probably was being watched by somebody real, and corporeal, but like, it's a little strange. It's a little strange, because there were times I would hear footsteps behind me in that place and turn around and there was no one there, type of thing. There definitely was something off about that particular area as well. So about the haunted house I used to live in as a child. Oh Jesus. It was quite an old house, it had been a family house for quite a long time. And there was so many weird things that went on in that house. The upstairs, terrifying. The kitchen, terrifying. The back corner of the lounge by the window to see into the garden, terrifying. You would hear footsteps around that part all the time. Again, could be the floor resettling, but still, it would be like someone was walking around the table, because we had a big dining table there. It would be like someone was walking around the table, and I would hate being in that corner of the room. The front room, which was like the front of the house, a room adjacent to the living room, I would feel kind of safe in there at times. My bedroom, I would not always feel safe in. There would be times where I'd be playing with my toys, and then I'd feel this presence, and I'd feel the need to stop playing with my toys. And I would just stop and be silent. And this was when I was a young kid, like 6, 7, 8. I would just stop, and I didn't know why, but I just felt the need to stop. As if I was being intimidated into stopping by something. And I had no prior reason to think, to do that. It was just an instinct, a guttural feeling type of thing. I am creeping myself out by recording this, by the way. I'm getting shivers. It's what makes it hard for me is I can't see what's going on around me IRL with this headset on, so it's like it's actively scaring me a little bit. Oh my goodness. There was a time when we had like this owl thing nailed to the wall in the kitchen, and when I say nailed, I mean actually nailed onto the wall. Stiff. Tough as nails, you might say. Stiff as a board. It went flying off one day. My mum and my nan were talking in the kitchen. It went flying off. Slid across the floor. I don't know how. Because if it simply, the nail had like come loose, it would have just fallen straight down. It wouldn't have gone like, like a whoosh like that. It would have gone like that. You know what I mean? So that was kind of odd. Like, I know my physics. That was kind of odd. And there was a point where I didn't know where to sleep, and I was getting stressed, and I was like, 9, 10 years old. I had like a horrible experience in my bedroom where I felt someone touch me on my leg, because I used to stick my leg out with a blanket. I felt someone touch me. I hid under the blanket and I said, "Who are you?" And I heard this deep guttural sigh. And then another night I was sleeping in my nan's room, saw a shadow in the doorway, hid under my duvet, and then I heard a whisper that was like, "Get out." That's what I heard. And it creeped me the fuck out. The only place I found safe to sleep was my mum's room, which was an extension that was added onto the house later, and it felt like none of the ghosts or scary stuff could enter that bit. It felt like that bit was like completely safe, the like extended bit that was added on later. The rest of the house haunted as fuck, but that bit felt safe, so I used to just sleep with my mum in her room when I was a kid after a while, because it was so fucking scary in there. Like, it was so awful. In the house, I mean. Oh my god, the house as a whole, it was just fucking terrifying. Like, Jesus Christ. And I'm skimming over things, you know. I had dreams in that house about like this headless Victorian woman and her child. And then I found out later that like my mum was reading this random story about the park that was literally just across the road from our house. Right across the road was a park. And in that park someone was beheaded and their head was found in a river creek. Anyway, I have one more spooky story and then I will have to stop recording here. I might do another spooky Saturnday where I'm talking about either my prophetic dreams that I've had and my strange, weird dreams in general, or I might read other spooky stories that are floating around online for funsies. You know, I might read about things like that, like ghosty woasties and like, you know, glitch in the matrix type shit. You know, that's cool. But anyway, one last story. This is another house I was living in. I've moved around a lot. But during my teenage years, I was living in a different part of England. And we were living in this like council house, and it was a new build. It was actually a new build house in like this new build area estate thing. But we had a dog, and she used to sneak upstairs sometimes, and she wasn't allowed to be upstairs on her own. So I swear to God, I was about to go upstairs, and I looked at the top of the stairs, and I saw like my dog just going like around the corner of the top of the stairs into the upstairs. And I saw that shit, you know. So I went back down into the living room and was like, "Oh mum, Cinder's upstairs." And then I kind of stopped because I noticed that my actual dog Cinder was asleep in the living room on the floor, in the middle of the floor. But I swear to God, clear as day, I saw that. So you know. And there's creepy things about this current house I'm living in too, aside from the Ouija board incident. Like, the pipes always make this like foghorn noise at exactly 11:37 AM at night. Now, the foghorn noise I can explain as like the pipes creaking, settling, the taps need replacing, or faucets if you're in America, the faucets need replacing, shit like that, right? Just plumbing issues in general. But the way it's at an exact time every night, regardless of like daylight savings, this has been going on for years, you know, regardless of anything like that, always 11:37 dead on, it will start. That's a little weird. Secondly, my TV kind of turns on by itself at around 3 to 4 AM at night, anytime like between that, because and I know what causes it. Essentially, it's because we have the Chromecast connected to it, and the Chromecast disconnects, temporarily goes onto live TV, then reconnects. But I'm wondering why it does it at exactly those times. Again, it's like a specific time thing. Although this time it's more of a time scale than an exact dead on time, but still, it's a little strange. And it never used to do that. It only started doing that like this year. And then there are cases where I find random bits of broken glass when nothing's broke on the floor, like either in the living room, in the hall, or in the kitchen. I went to the bathroom the other day and like I heard something like clatter behind me, and there was like a piece of broken glass on the bathroom floor, and nothing else had broke. I looked around, I couldn't see where it came from. I just disposed of the piece as I usually do. But it is a little strange. So, you know, there's things like that. I don't know, it's a little weird. Apart from that though, this house feels relatively safe. But, you know. Yeah, that's spooky Saturnday. Have a great night, have a great Halloween, have a great day, have a great whatever time it is. I will edit and upload more Voice of the Void videos. I just need to put a lot of effort into editing those because I don't want certain people featured in those videos anymore, to put it lightly. So, you know, there are certain people that were mods in my chat, that were around in my chat, that I don't want to have any association with, that I don't want to be in any facet or part of my life, but I still want those Voices of the Void videos uploaded because those were my first experiences with that game, and it's one of those games where the first experience is everything, especially entertainment value wise. And I still want my first experience recorded and put out there. I have gotten rid of the actual full VODs, but I can still edit them into videos and put them in a video format. I just don't feel comfortable having the full VODs up right now because, you know, those people are featured kind of front and center a lot. I don't want them anywhere near my channel. I don't want them anywhere near me, my image, or my life. No, thank you. So, you know, I will be like trying to, you know, do that. I do want to get into streaming as well. I will get back into streaming. I know I've been slacking this time of year. See, spring to summer, I'm more active and productive, and then it gets like the autumn winter and I wind down and my depression gets worse and my motivation gets worse and I just don't really do much. So yeah, I'm so sorry about that, but that's just how it be most of the time. I'm also working on my book. I had an idea for another book, so that's cool. My brain is not giving me any breaks, but my body is giving me a break. So yeah, see you around.